It's another week in the For Your Reference household, and it is the very first call to reference. Thank you, friends and lovers, for those that are subscribed and those that have left comments on our Spotify podcast. Very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's about Barbenheimer and the Black Savior Equalizer, OT. So if you aren't already subscribed on your podcast feed, friends and lovers, we would really love and appreciate it. Let's get on with the show. Spooky Recon Spooky, friends and lovers. Welcome back to the For Your Reference podcast. You got your host, Katie.
And OT.
And today we have a delicious, delectable selection of reviews, screeners we have been given access to, friends and lovers. Liam Neeson's contributing to the old man action subgenre, the chicken wing, De Niro, Irishman, the Denzel Equalizer, Best Protect Your Neck. Very exciting. We've got Retribution. We've got the Jigsaw, Saw X. X ain't gonna give it to you. Maybe give me Jason X. We got Saw X on the docket. Our flag means death. Taika, maybe a different Taika, perhaps. And we'll also be rounding it off with Stylebender.
The disrespect.
Are you a wanker bender?
Yeah.
Oh, friends and lovers, the great news is everything that we are covering, because we had a backlog, is currently out either in cinemas or on television right now. So let's get straight into it. Thanks to Haas and the team at Studio Canal, we are covering Retribution. Yeah. Are we doing spoilers, non-spoilers? How are you feeling?
Non-spoilers.
Okay, give us your first thoughts, sir.
Liam Neeson's classic high-stakes action meets a ticking bomb echoing shades of Speed. While the tension is palpable, deeper character connection is amiss. A thrilling yet familiar race against time.
Boo! Retribution for you, boo! We don't usually do this, but are you going to give us your out of 5 rating?
Nah.
Head on over to our Rotten Tomatoes profile, friends and lovers. Okay. Retribution has an interesting premise that is supported by believable performances, but takes its foot off the brake towards satisfying resolution.
So the resolution is...
Drift.
I felt like by the time we got to the resolution, it didn't even matter because I wasn't bought into the whole...
He looked the same age as the guy trying to play a teenager in Tokyo Drift Fast and the Furious. I will defend Retribution. I had a great time.
Wow. Okay. So there's aspects of the movie that got me, like, yeah, it was enthralling trying to see how they're going to get out of that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I just didn't care. I didn't know too much about them to care.
Okay.
Be it the conflict with the wife or even having the kids there. Yeah, you can sense from a human perspective that will be shitty.
OT literally said, fuck them kids.
I'm just bringing the Issa Rae energy.
You yeeting the baby out of the car?
Yeah, but like, I didn't know about them. Even trying to get on or trying to understand Matt's perspective or even why he's doing what he's doing and what he did before. Mm-hmm. Or is he a shitty person or not? Uh-huh. It just didn't connect with me.
Okay, see, I see what you're doing and I have a lot of positives to say, but I will continue off what you're saying. So Matt's character, he is not the Liam Neesons of old. He's not the taken Liam Neesons, right? He's some sort of financial bro, I believe. And he handles lots of money from very rich people and, all of the risk that comes along with that. I don't believe that he is incapable of kicking people's asses. Especially because we had a scene very much at the start to reinforce that he still can beat your ass. But it was interesting because he spoke in I don't really know if this is a trait of Liam Neeson or if this was part of the finance bro sort of persona that he had, but he was whispering the whole time and he was very delicate in the way he was talking. And I was like, where are the threats, sir?
Because he's doing shitty work and the kids are on the back seat. He can't really say with his chest, can he?
before that, I think. But I think his, like, the setup for his character wasn't believable, but that's not necessarily a lack of performance. That's just because we know Liam Neeson to have a certain archetype.
Even like with the relationship with the wife, we get to see that it paints a whole picture of who Matt is in this relationship or is in this world. And from that get-go, you kind of have your perceptions on who he is. So
it was the trope of the whining wife, though. One day, just one day, man.
I didn't take it as a whining wife. I take it as man better step up.
Both?
No, just one way.
Okay.
If you cannot take your kids, or take a responsibility for one bloody day and you have to fucking moan about it, and this is not a spoiler, you just have to just get on with it.
Are you saying this is more feminist than Barbie?
Yeah.
Well, see, you're saying things I agree with, but it doesn't discount the fact that I had a really good time watching this film.
Fair play.
It was kind of the concept in like television where you have like a bottle episode. It had a very singular sort of focus. And, you know, I don't think it's too much of a spoiler, but essentially they're stuck where they are. Otherwise, there are going to be dire consequences. And while we're here, shout outs to Arian Moyed. I would say you didn't use him well enough. You didn't, because the answer is you need him in every second of the film for me to sploosh everywhere.
Probably has Patrick Stewart's agent.
Wow. Okay, well, maybe that means Arian can have like a green room situation.
Oh, we could hope.
What green room giveth, American Dad taketh.
Uh-huh.
I enjoyed the singular sort of focus. I think it was very interesting in the way that we got to the, I guess you could say, predictable resolution was. But I do feel like there was enough tension to pull the movie through.
Yeah, like, because they introduced a lot of different things at certain points within the movie that I felt like it didn't really matter to...
Like the stakes weren't high enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even like from the detective or the police side, it just felt forced. Everything just felt forced. It felt
like the lead detective.
It felt that we're here because the movie dictates to be here, not because we've done our work to be here.
Also, you can say for this film, but not Passion of the Christ.
Everyone knows Jesus. Come on now.
Yeah, but you need a backstory. You need to be told when and how to care.
There's a whole book dedicated to that.
I thought it was enough to, like, it was enough to hold attention. Or you don't agree with that?
No, like, I agree with that. In my review, I said the same thing. It was palpable. I got some feels. Like, Neeson's is an action star, you know?
Uh-huh. You don't need to subgenre him, just action star?
No, because I feel like he got there when he's already at that age. So it's all good, man. Nah, seriously though, like the sequences in this that are really good, that I enjoyed, the shooting, some things I was like, oh man, that's badass. But at the end of the day, that doesn't really make a movie for me, or at least sway it to a direction where I felt like I was satisfied at the end of it.
So because it seems like you held this to a more realistic, grounded perspective than you would Fast and the Furious, for example. Where was your reluctance to suspend belief in this film? Because obviously there were very ridiculous action scenes that happened in this that would be hard to accept if you were taking it from a grounded point of view. But I've also known you to not take things from a grounded point of view. So where does it tip over for you?
But the difference is Fast and Furious has a huge catalog of overlaying character development. I know everything about Dom.
Oh, come on. Overlaying character development. That is not what you watch Fast and the Furious for. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? If that is your defense, sir?
I know a lot more about Dom and his familia than I do about Matt Turner and his.
Yeah, but that doesn't equal layered character development and arcs.
You got shocked at how detailed or how structured the whole Fast and the Furious was from a overlaying perspective. From the first movie being released to the 10th movie being released. No, we're not doing
this. Don't make me Katie Scorsese.
By the time we get to the 7th, they're calling back things that we saw in the first movie. Blending storylines that you thought were just there randomly.
We're not doing
Joining things that you would just feel like, oh, caliente, this is what we need in this moment.
Okay, hombre.
It has some ridiculous moments, granted.
Okay, so let me 60-minute you. So what was the tipping point for you where you couldn't suspend belief in Retribution?
There's nothing that I couldn't suspend. Like, it's not about me suspending belief to feel like as if I enjoyed this. It was more to do with me buying into the characters or even caring about the characters.
But I didn't care. I said, fuck them kids too. So I didn't care about them, but I still had a good time.
I don't know. Like, it was hard for me. Even when
you have the predictable ending, I didn't care about that either. Like, it didn't make or break it for me.
I guess I'm very character driven in this case because I wanted to care about someone or at least give me someone to hold on to.
Yeah, I guess.
And I didn't feel like I had that. It felt like I really didn't know anything about Matt.
Just say you love Gal Gadot then.
We're all going to imagine.
No thanks.
I just wanted something, man. Mm-hmm. Give me someone to care for. Wife was a non-starter because we didn't even know anything about her.
Uh-huh.
Matt Turner, we just don't know too much about him.
Yeah.
And the kids are just, ugh. Apart from that, there's like nothing else.
Okay.
I just needed some.
Okay. We just had 2 different evenings at the cinema, I guess. Speaking of an evening at the cinema, speaking of a character that you potentially want to care for, again, thank you to Haz and the team at Studio Canal. We are talking about Saw X. And I guess just to give it context, friends and lovers, a couple of years ago, maybe right in the middle of Pamela Panini's, we did try to watch the Saw franchise. You've watched it before? And this was a first time sort of venture for me. I think we got to 2.5, maybe 1.5. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing this.
One and a half.
I definitely have seen parts of 2. So yeah, I'm not sure where we were there. Friends and lovers. On a side note, we are starting to watch Wrong Turn, so we'll see if that becomes our Halloween special. But I guess that's just to contextualize how much of the Saw franchise I've watched. Did you watch anything when you were watching it back in the day? How far did you get, OT?
I think I got pretty much up until the 4th one.
And Spiral?
Yeah.
Chris Rock.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, I guess an apology for or to contextualize, let's get into our first impressions, OT.
John Kramer reminds us why we fell in love with Saw in the first place. Saw X allows us to live in the world of the icon a little bit longer. And I felt that we were taking on an emotional journey in this that...
Emotional journey! I don't mean to heckle every quote of yours, but Jesus.
It was an emotional journey. Aside from the qualms that I did have with this movie, I think fundamentally a lot of it worked for me. And I got to enjoy what John Kramer was all about. Some of it still felt a bit more grandiose, or at least different from what I expected him to be as a person. Or at least what I remember from him in the past.
Can we put a baby spoiler? Spoiler, because the events take place between 1 and 2, I believe.
Yeah.
So if that's a spoiler, then I guess I'm skip to the next review, friends.
Yeah, like I didn't imagine him to be so self-reflective that much, or at least to care so much about.
Okay. We'll come to that. We'll come to that in a second. I didn't like it. But let me get into my summary thoughts. The core premise of Saw X is at direct conflict with the underlying foundation of the franchise.
Say more.
Am I wrong though?
Say more. I want to hear what this is going.
Okay, so I guess we don't want to spoil too much about Soul X, so I am going to talk very broadly. As far as I understand the torture porny Soul Friends and Lovers fans to be, it's all about that sort of hedonistic sort of nature, being forced to play a game that you don't want to play, and maybe at some point it's some sort of comeuppance in some particular way in regards to the plot. That's, I guess, if in some sort of way, if you want to call that the fun, the salaciousness, the frivolity of what I understand the Saw franchise to be. What I didn't understand and what I didn't care for, what I didn't feel the need for, is to make Jigsaw go woke. Like, it didn't make sense that suddenly he had some sort of righteous streak in him. And I do understand that there's some level of, you're a naughty boy, or you're a naughty friend and lover, so I'm going to make you play these nasty games. Like, I get that, but it was never to the level of, I'm going to save all of these young Mexican children. Like, unless he's in that South Park episode with the Mexican Joker. I don't know.
Wow.
It didn't need to be that. No one asked for that. Well, I didn't ask for that.
I hear you. I think some parts of the movie felt a bit too woke in that regard, and something that I wouldn't really associate with John. So I understand that, and I saw that. But I think just seeing him traverse the Saw world again, and I think that was what got me all teared up.
Teared up?
Not literally.
Just tell us you're working on the Kenyan spin-off where John Kramer comes to Kenya.
Yeah.
The Sawqualizer 10.
Battling climate change. Yeah.
But, like, to be perfectly honest, I don't understand what the benefit is in giving John Kramer a morality tip. I don't understand that. Art the Clown, if we talk about Terrifier for a second, obviously not spoiling. From a narrative point of view, I love understanding the motivation of characters and how they came to be. However, I also love Terrifier 1, 2, and I guess 3 to come out very soon, right? And Art is a very great example of not needing to have a moralistic backstory for the fucked up, chaotic shit that he does. He just does it, and that's enough.
But that's the difference with John in this regard, right? Because John does this shit to try and teach people a lesson. And if they do torture themselves, or at least push themselves to the limit of trying to get themselves out of those contraptions, then they're free to go. It's not a matter of, because I am a bad person and Jigsaw got me, then I'm dead automatically. No, he gives you an option.
Well, what if I'm a Lee Winnell baby? Then
you're dead.
But the franchise overfloweth friends and lovers. No, I don't buy it. I don't understand it. I actually don't understand why people love it so much. From what I understand, it's a lot of people that are attached to the franchise. So maybe come and fight me, friends and lovers. Maybe there's a bit of fan service there. But we can have fucked up people for the sake of being fucked up people, right?
Which John never was. He wasn't fucked up just because he's fucked up.
No, he was fucked up before he needed
There was a morality to it of what he thought was the righteous path and what people needed to do.
We need to caveat this. He had a distorted sense of justice.
Yeah.
That's not the same as righteousness. You can call it self-righteousness.
It's right. Yeah, it's righteousness to him.
Yeah, a distorted sense of justice and righteousness.
Like, it's an imperfect world and justice doesn't always prevail. I'm not saying what John does in this world is right, but I'm not going to condone him. There's some people that were there that I was like, bruh, this guy's done nothing. But at the end of it, I think what Saw X brings to the table is juicing up the morality aspect of what Jigsaw stands for. And I felt like it teetered towards the woke too much in this movie. which they could have definitely pulled back on, because I never really pictured John to be that guy.
Exactly. So this isn't too much.
No, there's a line. Like there's
okay, so this is just a perfect example, and it's inconsequential to the overall plot of Saw X. However, we see John Kramer in a hospital, and he sees a custodian, and the custodian is potentially about to steal some valuables from a dying patient, right? If we're talking about the fighting class, if we're talking about the Robin Hood of it all, fucking turn your eyes. That's none of your business. He needs to feed his family. Or maybe he just wants a nice watch. Who knows?
Bruh.
But what
that is not the take from it.
How does that impart your sense of self-righteousness? You really want to go after the enemy? Go after Big Pharma, you motherfucker. Coward. John Coward Kramer. Fuck off.
Tell me how you feel. I'm just gonna...
Do you think John Kramer would let you slide? Exactly. The court rests. And I'm not even spoiling anything, but look at the victims and the sequence in which they die in Saw X. You definitely aren't surviving. I don't have a chance, but you definitely. This is not the Blackening X. This is Saw X.
Wow, say it with your chest, man. Bloody hell.
Yeah, but I'm not making you do puzzles for your freedom, am I? Or friends and lovers, I guess that's what you can call relationships. Ayo.
I think part of what Saw X did struggle with, I think that has to do more with Saw X being created in this sort of climate rather than it being...
But this is a, like, prequel.
But they're still doing a prequel in this climate. Yes, they can take us back, but we're watching it with a...
Why did it take 6 to 8 cut shots for him to walk across the room?
My God.
Why was there a budget to removing his heavy breathing walking across the room?
I don't... Like, take that out. And I feel like there was a solid foundation of what really brought us to the heart of what we loved about Saw, or at least Jigsaw, or what he stood for.
You mean Jake Jigsaw Sully? He was white savoring all over Mexico. Come on, man.
Well, Pandora only exists because of Sully, so there you go.
I don't know why you're going so hard for this.
I'm not even going hard. You're just being ridiculous. That's why I feel like I have to protect it so much.
Am I wrong, though?
Some aspects of it, yes.
I just... No, but it's like, if this is your world, baby, we're living in your world for the next couple of hours. You know what I mean? Like, take us to this world. Let us live in it. No one's coming to watch the Saw franchise for social commentary. Right? Yeah. Just like we're not looking for stable relationships when we watch Patrick Wilson in a Blumhouse film. That's Insidious and Conjuring. Ew.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I don't know. I guess if you're going to Sweaty Friends and Lovers, come and fucking fight me. I just didn't get it. And, you know, I guess just shining a light on all of the franchises that we cover on this podcast, the Fast franchise, Chucky, Child's Play, Halloween. You know, I say it all the time. Just because it's a franchise, it still needs to do the work to build that emotional resonance. So even if I haven't watched the other Saw films, this film should do enough to build that emotional sort of resonance. And I feel like it didn't. And if we're going to rate the X's of the world, this is at the bottom. Jason X, astronomically to the moon, is at the top. Then we have Tyrese and Ludacris to the moon, Fast X. And then somewhere in the nether realm, we have Saw X.
Wow. I'm not even going to touch that, man. You're a ridiculous person.
At least I know I won't survive.
Well, I might have in this instance.
Well, let's move on to, I guess, the proverbial walking of the plank if you're nasty. Thank you to the team at Binge for the screeners to Our Flag Means Death.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't really think I would enjoy it as much as I do. But it takes Quacky to a different level. And I'm here for it.
I think if I were to rank the Taikerisms of the world, I would rank Our Flag Means Death above Sacrilege, What We Do in the Shadows.
I think that's blasphemy.
Well, infamously on our podcast, we actually scrapped What We Do in the Shadows movie and did Jojo Rabbit instead.
We did.
So that should pretty much tell you all of that.
But then again, you should remember how I felt about Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah, and it was still worth talking about over What We Do in the Shadows. I guess while we're here, because the stakes are low over here, friends and lovers, we did see Taika Waititi. He was at the Sydney Film Festival premiere of Red, White and Brass. Go and check out our interview and podcast. How dare I? How nasty to plug another podcast while we're on here. But I really enjoyed it for the show that it was. I think if you love Our Flag Means Death season 1, you'll really enjoy season 2. It has the same fanfare, it has the same frivolity, and it has the same sugar-coated heart.
Oh.
Also, while we're here, shout outs to our bestie, Tim, who makes an appearance. I don't know if he wants everyone to know. I'm not going to blow up his spot on what episode he's in. But if this is the wanker corner, I just want to say it does something to the spirit to know that we get the screeners that we get access to, and we can see our friends and lovers on the come up doing the damn thing.
Yeah, really great, man. I think it sort of makes it even more worthwhile.
Absolutely. And also it's endorsed by our greyhound, Theo, as well. Oh, how are you feeling, OT?
Good.
Yeah?
Bumped up.
No more a quandary?
Nah.
Are you in need of some therapy?
It might be.
Some healing?
After what we do in the Shadows take, yes, I would.
I thought you enjoyed the role play, OT. Well, let's finish off. Shout outs to the team at Nixco, as well as Ahi Films, as well as Fluoro Black. I had the opportunity to interview the director, Zoe McIntosh. We are talking about the film Stylebender, which, again, just like everything else that we've covered, is still in cinemas, Australia and Aotearoa out now. This is about the MMA champion, Israel Adesanya. OT, kick us off with your thoughts.
Going beyond the octagon, the documentary on Israel Adesanya paints a vivid, intimate portrait of the last Stylebender. It's a moving exploration of the champion's journey, touching on vulnerability, inner demons, and personal growth. A must-watch.
Wow, I didn't know you were the other Imagine Dragons, OT.
Ooh, yeah, you'd never know it.
Okay, all right. Well, let me get into my first impressions, because it seems like we have a lot of muy caliente, delicious layers to get to, friends and lovers. Israel Adesanya has a disarming confidence that brings an interesting energy to hyper-masculine spaces like MMA. Through a 5-year journey, we explore the triumphs, healing, and vulnerability of a carefully built public persona.
Oh, fancy one you are.
Fancy one you are, indeed. There's so much that I want to talk about. I don't think anything that we would say would be in spoilers, but I do want to get a little bit deeper, T.
All right. Hit me with it.
Well, as our residential
Blackman. What am I supposed to do now?
You said it. Where do you want to start, my love?
At the start.
Well, I guess just generally, you're an MMA UFC purveyor, are you not?
I double, yeah.
Okay.
I was very keen when I heard that we're going to get a screening for the Stylebender because I am an Israel fan.
Mm-hmm.
And getting to know how he thinks about the world and how he sees everything and how he got where he is and everything he's been through, I think opened up a different door.
Okay.
That I knew that at the back of my mind that he had to have been through,
Mm-hmm.
but the way he carried himself made it seem as if he bloody walks on water.
Yeah.
And trying to see, and of course, no one does that. You know, they're still all human. And there's always something deep. And I think what this documentary does so well is trying to peel all that back and trying to get to see Israel, the man, and the champion as well. And the intersection between those two. Mm-hmm. I think what they did so well is trying to bring that to life, I think, because we get to delve deeper into who he is as a person and how he had to fight a lot of shit. I was trying to put it better, but
literal, proverbial, symbolic, everything shit, yeah.
Yeah, there's just so much things that you would imagine a Nigerian boy in Atoro being the only black person would go through. Mm-hmm. And no one wants to really hear about that shit, so you don't really listen. It's not really out there. I think this documentary gives you the, smack at the back of the head and be like, bruh, this guy has fought tremendously hard to be that kind of person, to be that person he is, and to be able to compartmentalize a lot of that shit. Because we know that shit is not going away. Yeah. And we see that in therapy. We see that in his, intimate sessions. It's one of those things that just makes you appreciate him even more because he's gone way above what's expected of him to be where he is at the moment. And I just loved everything about this. I think the aspects of the documentary, I felt like they could have gone deeper for sure. And maybe that was a more artistic approach on what they wanted this to be as well. Okay. And the audience as well, maybe catering to different all aspects. But I felt like they could have gone deeper on other aspects that I knew they could have dragged a bit more emotional punch into it. And maybe that would have turned it into a completely different thing altogether. Yeah. But overall, I enjoyed it. It was brilliant, at least trying to understand him as a man. And wow, what a force.
So Israel and his brother, they migrated to Aotearoa like when they were young, and you came to Australia, in your 20s, right? But was there a part of you that felt like, coming to so-called Australia, there were parts of you that feel like you could resonate with the struggles that he was talking about, what he was going through?
Oh, for sure. Like I went, when I knew I was coming here, I Googled a lot of shit, watched a lot of videos, and I was like, bruh, where the fuck am I going? Yeah. It's nothing like that. I think you'd always get there. When you're Googling for that shit, you'll always get that stories. You'll always get a heap of those stories anyway. And it's one of those things where when I was reading Boya's book,
NAACP nominated Boya J. Farah.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah. Nominated for his memoir, America Made Me a Black Man.
Yeah.
Somalian American.
I think I never really put words into what I experienced until I read that book.
Like you become black.
Yeah, like you don't really understand. You know what's happening, but I think I never just really sat down and thought about it that way. Yeah. And that book really helped me understand, or at least express a lot of shit that I was feeling. And I was like, oh, yes, I was resonating with a lot of it.
Yeah, because you are who you are, but then in some cadences, you are who they say you are.
Exactly. And with that, you could, with that lens and watching the documentary, you could see it clear as day. You could see it clear as day, and all the issues or societal issues that are there They don't go into that. Rightly so, because I think that would have just taken away from his achievement.
Well, I kind of want to talk about that because in the documentary there was a quote from Izzy, and he did say, "This is the character that I built." You know,
facts.
And we also had the opportunity to ask Zoe that as well, and I agree with what you're saying. I do feel like there were layers. Like, as much as we got to see a vulnerable side of Izzy, I still feel like it was still at a level that he was comfortable with. Like, I'm not saying we needed to 60-minute the man, but there was definitely moments where, because I think at the end of the day, personally for me, being a child of migrants, Tongan parents that came into this country, there is a level of feeling less than. There is a level of being othered, right? And to feel that and to know that on some minuscule sort of level, there was a part of me that just wanted Izzy to be happy, to be soft, to be loved, to be held. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things to have in life. But there's also a moment in Stylebender where he says, if I were to be that, I wouldn't have the fire to fight. And I'm like, you don't need to fight, my friend. Like, let's just come and love on each other. You don't need to, like, whether you want to call it a front, a character, a persona, or whatever it is, I'm just like, this is the time for healing and this is the time for love. But if you need to go and bash some other man, then that's okay, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good way to channel a lot of the things that he went through as well. Because I think
But don't you think there was still that vulnerable part of him that didn't want to be picked on, feeling the need to prove everyone wrong, as opposed to that's who he was inherently?
100%. 100%.
Like, he wasn't renegade out here.
No, but I think it's part of the journey, isn't it?
I guess.
It's part of the journey, and even while sitting through some of his therapy sessions, which felt weird.
Let's get to the therapy. No. Let's get to the therapy. Friends and lovers, I feel like it was the Mickey Hardaway review that we did recently. Shout outs to Marcellus Cox, which succinctly focused on the premise of therapy for Black men. I mentioned it in there where I was like, everyone else is getting therapy. Let's all get therapy. But it's important to have at least an overlap of an experience. I'm not saying you understand the experience. I'm saying people that have gone through similar shit that you've gone through, right? And the reason why I say that is, if you can't be your whole self, if you can't share your whole self, then how much healing can you really do? And the reason why I say that is, I guess you can speak more to African sort of households, but what I would say, at least for in my sort of upbringing, the notion of, I guess, physical discipline, which you could call abuse, which you call beatings, or whatever you want to call it, that physical discipline, you can't have the love without that, unfortunately. Unfucking-fortunately, in a lot of circumstances, you can't have it without that. And, you could also discount everything I'm saying. However, I would also embolden myself by the moment that the white therapist physically, she gasped. Of this young Nigerian boy being like hit by his parents. I'm like, because I want, like, that's not even a level playing field. I'm not saying it's okay to beat your children. I'm not saying that. And also, I would not speak to any other sort of cultures. But to have a therapist that is already sitting there ready to call child services, how are you going to get a level of healing if it's already unimaginable? Like, it's not even imaginable to be able to utter those words in that experience.
I hear you. And I think it's very interesting you brought up Mickey Hadaway, because we had a very different sort of polar reaction to that. Because we felt, well, the Black therapist, he imposed his experiences or projected his experiences on what he went through.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, cool, you went through that and you can explain it that way, but doesn't invalidate exactly what Mickey went through.
Mm-hmm.
So with this, it was like the other end where you get like gasps and no, but where is the understanding of why that happened?
We're like ready to call the UN.
Like the background of the culture as well. It's there. It's not great. It's not good, but it's there.
Yeah.
It's the classic astronomy club, which we reference a lot.
Yeah, come on, Netflix.
We've got our trauma and we say it as if it's a bloody fucking joke. But anyway, it's I think there's a middle ground to all that, because at the end of the day, we don't want someone who's bringing all the experiences and saying like, bruh, I went through that.
No, but I'm telling you, as a black man, seeing that white therapist audibly gasp at just the idea that he got hit as a kid.
Yeah, that maybe that was dramatization for TV.
Maybe that's why Saw works on everyone else, because they're like the cord, the belt, the metal spoon.
Yeah, well, it's yeah. Yeah. I see that. But I think you don't also want to go the other way with the Mickey Hathaway situation, where it felt very projecting of, my experience is this, or your experience is that, and that's just a fact, and man up. It felt very man uppy, even though it wasn't the case. Now we're getting out of the way. But bringing it back to Stylebender, yeah, that was like a weird moment where I was like, okay, cool. A weird reaction to something that I think maybe there should be some awareness of what's going on in a perceived culture, or at least, like, I don't know. If
pay me a couple of $100 and I'll gasp every time you talk about Tomathon was given a timeout.
Tomathon.
Tomathon Cumberbatch.
Wow. Yeah. But like his therapy sessions were quite intriguing in that seeing the vulnerability, or at least the connection that he had.
Like, when do you see therapy sessions in a documentary?
Yeah. Like even the trust that he had with her, he laid himself bare. He allowed himself to be vulnerable in that moment, and for all of us to see. It couldn't have been easy. But what a journey.
I would love to see like a retrospective. Well, he's going to have a long career, but it will be great to see, like I said in the interview with Zoe, like an Izzy cinematic universe.
Oh.
Because for what the offering of the film was, I think it was great to get to know Izzy, but I also feel like there's so much more to learn about him. Do you have qualms, quarrels, quandaries with the lack of anime representation, sir?
I could always use more anime. No, I don't think in this, not really.
You're the contrarian tonight, aren't you?
No, just because I was so taken aback at how learning more about him and his life and how his coping mechanism and how he got himself to be the Stylebender, that everything else, regardless of me wanting some more anime in it, just fell off the wayside. I was like, we don't need that. I could use some more easy.
Oh, nice. Look at you. You want to take a deep breath, OT? I'll charge you at the end of this.
I know.
For other services as well. Thank you, friends and lovers, for joining us another week in the For Your Reference household. We appreciate you. We love you. We hold you. And if you're lucky, OT will slap you in the ass. If you would like to continue the debrief on Twitter, Instagram, Spill, and Blue Sky, we're at For Your Ref Pod.
Write us an email at hello@f1podcast.com.
We're also on the Sorqualizer sequel spin-off with OT and Kenya podcast, if you'd like to leave a rating and review. And we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
Bye.